Hello, everyone. Welcome to Interviews from My Hometown. I am Seth, and today we have Cam. He's a great guy, and Cam, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Seth.
Yeah, of course. So Cam, can you give a brief description about yourself?
Sure. Well, my name is Cameron Shepherd Beyenberg. People call me Cam. Um, I would describe myself as a beloved son of the Most High King. I currently find myself as one of the pastors at Seychelles Church. I am married to the love of my life. Her name is Abby, and she is a therapist over at Columbia Valley Community Health. Um, I am currently because of COVID-19, I am a stay-at-home dog dad right now of two. Shammy and Griffey are their names, and yeah, we love life here in Wenatchee, Washington. So
Awesome. How long have you guys lived in Wenatchee?
we have lived in Wenatchee since July of 2018. So yeah, almost 2 full years now.
Okay. What town did you personally, I'll come back around to Abby. Did
Sure.
you live in before Wenatchee?
Sure. We lived in a town called Rancho Cucamonga, California,
Okay.
which is a real place. A lot of people are like, "What did you just say?" Or "Did you curse at me in Spanish?" And no, Rancho Cucamonga is the actual name of that town.
Okay. Um, and did Abby live in a different town before
Yeah,
Rancho Cucamonga?
she did. Yeah, Abby grew up in West Los Angeles,
Okay.
very close to UCLA. And then we met in college in San Diego, and then we moved back up to my hometown, which was Rancho Cucamonga.
Okay. Um, what was the early life for Cam? Sports, extracurricular activities, first jobs. Any good stories from there?
Sure, sure. Yeah, no, I grew up in a great home. Had just two amazing parents. John and Sarah are their names, and grew up with my brother Brandon, and we had just a plethora of friends that we would play any sport with. We created sports. We just were um, trying to be outside all the time. Played video games, had a lot of fun, just hanging out with people. And so yeah, I grew up in a big sports family. So played all the sports growing up: football, basketball, soccer, baseball. Yeah, just really anything with a ball, I would we would go and play that. We spent a lot of time, like I was saying, kind of just being outside. We lived in a really beautiful spot in Southern California where year round we had great weather, so we could just be outside and have fun and ride bikes, do whatever it was. A lot of us had swimming pools, so we'd be out and doing that. So I had a really great childhood. Just hanging out with a bunch of really great guys and gals, and we grew up in the church too. So spent a lot of time just being a church kid, going to church functions, being a part of youth group,
Yeah.
going to camps, going to retreats, that kind of thing. Yeah, and we were in Southern California as well, so we're surrounded by uh, natural beauty. So 30 minutes from us was the mountains, so we'd go up and play in the snow in the winter, and then another 45 minutes from us was the beach, so we'd go out to the beach basically all summer long and surf and boogie board and play in the waves, and then we're also surrounded by theme parks. So I remember
Yeah.
actually my growing up years, probably like 11 or 12, 13, was when California Adventure at Disneyland had just opened, and everybody hated it because it was so much smaller, and everybody was like, "What is this thing?" And so me and my buddies, they had season passes, and we would just go in and we'd hang out there all the time because nobody was there, and it was awesome. Um, so yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
great childhood, a lot of fun times growing up.
Awesome. What was something that I've asked is high school like was good grades?
Can you say that again? It cut out
Oh,
real quick. Yeah.
did you get good grades in high school, or were you a troublemaker?
um, you know, I I did summer school once in my life, and that was the summer between third and fourth grade. And that's just because I was like, what's the point of reading when I'm really good at sports and I just want to be outside? So they made me go to summer school to read like 9 books over the summer, of which I probably read like a quarter of one, and then just spent my time outside again. Uh, but basically from 4th grade, 5th grade on, I just tried to be the golden child in my house, and was a 4.0 student for most of my life, and um, yeah, really pressed into that. And I had my years. I think everybody has those years. It's called middle school. Um, when, when they're like, everything's awkward and I hate myself and I hate people and I hate everything. And you just have those kind of like rude years. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I think going into high school, I really kind of evened out, and yeah, just really focused on baseball, really focused on sports, or sorry, grades, um, and friendships there, and really got heavily involved in the church and youth group in those years. So it kind of helped with that.
Yeah. Um, so moving from that, what was I know there's a big in between period there because you were born in the 80s. So I mean, um,
You make me sound so old, bro. It was 1989. It's not that far away.
um, what was the move up to Wenatchee like?
Sure. Sure. So, yeah, I think I mentioned it earlier. My wife Abby and I met at this place in San Diego called Point Loma Nazarene University, really small Christian college down there. That's where we did our undergraduate studies. We met there, and then going from there, we both went to a seminary in Southern California in Pasadena, which is right next to Los Angeles, called Fuller Theological Seminary. And so in that time, I was serving as the youth pastor and then associate pastor at a church in Rancho Cucamonga called Cucamonga Christian Fellowship. Abby was a full-time PhD student, um, pursuing her PhD in clinical psychology. And along that process, I finished my master's in theology. She continued to move forward in her studies, and we continued to serve at the church and cultivate friendships and family and just do life down there. Um, Much like with any PhD or like a medical doctor, they have what's called a residency year. And so in that process, Abby was looking at different places to apply. And we were really just praying about where to apply, where would be the best place. And so about 4.5 years ago, we were hanging out with the lead pastor of Seychelles Church, Mike and Cassie Wilson, and they had just accepted coming up here. And they had threw out this name of Wenatchee, Washington. We're like, well, what's up there, you know? And so Abby starts researching it, and lo and behold, one of her top sites that she's interested in applying to was in Wenatchee, Washington, at Columbia Valley Community Health. So in
Wow.
the process of her applying, she starts looking at it, and she actually didn't have the amount of hours required the first time around to apply for it. So she applied at different spots, and one of them pulled out last minute, and the other one had selected another person for their residency year. So she went into round 2 of this match system. And in round 2, she looked back up at CVCH at Columbia Valley, and they had lowered the amount of hours, and she had accrued more hours to apply to this spot. And so she applied. We matched here, and I remember giving Mike a phone call at like 5 a.m. When we found out, and we're in tears on the phone of like, dude, remember 4.5 years ago when like we had this conversation? Like, we're coming up to Wenatchee, you won't believe it. And yeah, and so in July of 2018, we made the move from Southern California and drove all of our stuff up here and our dog, and we've been loving life. And it was a really cool journey, just because I think a lot of times you hear the story of like in marriage or family systems, like people go wherever the husband or the father is working. But it was just a really cool thing of like, hey, I really trust the Lord in like providing this opportunity for Abby, and whatever's the best for her is going to be the best for me too. And it's been really true. Like God's been really faithful to that promise of like, this is the best thing for her. And it's ended up being the best thing for me too, being at Sage, and being in Wenatchee and cultivating friendships and and relationships up here.
All right. Yeah. Uh, I heard that in your sermon this last Sunday. I think it was
Yeah,
last Sunday.
yeah,
Um, the weeks have seemed to slow to a halt, so I don't know what day is what day anymore.
right.
Um, so what? Let me ask about Abby and your two dogs. I forget the name of your two dogs. So,
Sure, sure. Yeah. What would you like to know about them?
uh, I mean, so you touched on Abby and how she is a has a PhD and went
Hmm.
through all of that. I mean, something that I always find hilarious is good first date stories, um,
Sure,
or dates in general.
sure, sure. Well, yeah, that's so fun. Abby and I have a plethora of really fun date stories. I think one of our most fun ones was actually the day that I proposed. We went to the San Diego Zoo together, and then I picked this spot in San Diego called Mount Soledad, which is a 360 overlook of um, San Diego. And I had this whole cool plan of like singing a song that I had written for her and proposing and asking her to be my wife and marry me. And um, I had like this whole thing planned out. And so we show up to this spot, and we're just doing some songs on guitar. And all of a sudden, this random stranger with a camera comes up and taps me on the shoulder and is like, "Hey, so I'm here for a proposal, and I'm wondering if you could play guitar in the background." And at this moment, I'm like sweating bullets, like, oh my gosh, Abby knows, like she knows I'm going to propose right now. Like this is out, like, and this girl, like this photographer just keeps pressing, like, please, like this would make the proposal like the greatest thing. Like just play guitar in the background. And I'm like trying to like go away or I'll hit you with this guitar type of thing, like, um, but lo and behold, I was like, oh, I'm sorry, like we can't do that. Um, and then I sing this song, I propose, and she says yes, and her friends were hiding and taking pictures, and they pop out, and then the photographer comes back over and is like, I am so sorry, I didn't know. But then this other couple shows up, and the guy proposes, and they get engaged, and so we get to go and talk with them, and they actually had just gone to the San Diego Zoo as well.
Wow.
And we were talking about kind of their next steps, and very similar story. Like they were both going into grad school and both pursuing next steps into what they felt called to. And then we got to pray for them that night, which was like right then, which was such a cool, like first thing to get to do when we were engaged.
Yeah.
Um, so, kind of a fun date story there. Um,
One story that I always love to tell is I had this is an ex-girlfriend. Um, I had been dating her for about 3 months, and if you know me, I'm not great with names.
okay.
Um, and at this point, I hadn't remembered her name. Um, for about 3 months, I hadn't remembered this girl's name, and we finally went over to her house, and we were up in her room, and her mom calls, and she goes, "Hey," I'm not gonna say her name because that's
Mhm.
rude. She goes, "Hey," and I go, "Ah, that's the way it is. Okay, gotcha." Um, late, way later in the relationship, she was telling me, "Oh yeah," she was telling me all this embarrassing stuff. I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, I could strike back with this embarrassing story that of me not remembering her name. And then I thought, oh man, my dad always taught me better. Don't say that.
Yeah.
But
Good.
then apparently somehow it had come out to one of her really good friends that they had found out that story and had told her. Yeah, that didn't end well.
Oh man,
uh
that is that's awesome. Oh, it's hilarious.
yeah. Um there's always a good first date story or
Totally.
3 months into the relationship story.
That's right.
Um
That's right.
So Cam, tell me about your dogs because that's a huge part of your life. I know you have an Instagram page for them and
We
all of
do.
that. What is the story behind getting your dogs and continuing to have them?
Sure, sure. So, um, actually, we had come up to Washington um, a little while ago, and we were basically looking at spots where Abby might apply for her residency and where we might be heading. So we have some friends on the west side, in a little town called Buckley, and they had just the nicest dogs, and we spent time with them, and we were just like, we've got to get some dogs like these because they're just the sweetest dogs. Um, and one of them actually recently just passed. His name is Samson, and was just the sweetest pit bull you'd ever meet. They have pictures of him, like they have a bunch of chickens and ducks. They have like a little farmhouse, and Samson's just hanging out, and the chickens are like jumping all over him. And so when we went back to Southern California, we were like, well, let's start thinking about maybe adopting and rescuing a dog, because there's just so many. There are so many dogs that are in shelters, and so many
Mm-hmm.
dogs that need homes. And so our first dog, we adopted in Rancho Cucamonga. He had been abandoned and abused, and when they found him, he had mange, which is kind of like those little mites that are all over their coat. And we went and met him, and he's got the cone of shame on because he just had his big boy surgery, and um, and he's sitting in his cage, and he's just like staring out like, please adopt me. And we meet him, and immediately he rolls over, and just like we just knew like this is the guy. And so we named him Shamgar, which is a judge in the Old Testament. There's only one mention of him, and it says, and then there was Shamgar, who killed 1,500 Philistines with an ox goad, which is the thing that Gandalf has in Lord of the Rings. Um, and it just says he too saved Israel. So I would always joke with Abby that our firstborn we would name Shamgar, and technically he's our firstborn. So so we named him Shamgar, and yeah, we just learned a lot about adoption, learned a lot about what it means, even being Christians and believing in like us being adopted into the family of God, and how the same thing for Sham, like he's sitting in a cage, got a cone of shame on, like wants somebody to come and help. And so we paid his adoption fee. We rescued him from his cage. We brought him into a home. We gave him discipline and food and a new name and a new way of life. And that's what's given to us, right, in the spirit of adoption, which is really cool for us to learn about that through a dog.
Yeah.
um, and then when we got up here, we had lived in a bunch of smaller back houses in Southern California. But when we got up here, we moved into a new home, and we had more space. And so we had always wanted to get Sham a brother or sister so that he could have somebody to play with and wrestle with and have fun with and go on walks with.
Mm-hmm.
And so we found a little a rescue called Three Little Pitties. And they found out about a litter of puppies in Texas, 12 dogs, that were pit bull mixes. And just because of their breed, they were literally going to kill these 12 dogs that were puppies.
Mm-hmm.
And so somebody in Leavenworth went and go pick them up, and then we went and met them, and we just fell in love with the guy that we adopted, and we named him Gryffindor because we're huge Harry Potter fans, and we call him Griff for short. So we have one like pocket-sized pit bull and one mastiff-sized pit bull, and they are just the best. They're the sweetest dogs, and they're big cuddle bugs, and they love people, they love kids, they're really good with other dogs. And like I was saying earlier too, we've just learned a whole lot about what that spirit of adoption means for us, and yeah, how we can even practice parenting with them, which has been really fun.
Nice. Um, Tell me about your time as a pastor with Seychelles Church,
Sure. Um,
and kind of like how that got all started. And I know you kind of touched on it earlier, but
yeah. Well, I think the best way to explain that, I was saying earlier, I grew up in a home where we went to church every Sunday. My dad was a deacon, and we went to a number of different churches. I was in the Presbyterian church, we were in the Lutheran church, we were in the Baptist church, we were in the non-denominational church. I was a part of a charismatic house of prayer for a while, the Nazarene church. I mean, you name it, I've been a part of the denomination. And in that span, I grew up in a lot of denominations, though, where it was just kind of all about having head knowledge and just like really memorizing what the Bible says, but not really participating in relationship with the Lord. It was just having a relationship with a book. And so around the age of 16, I actually encountered the Holy Spirit in a prayer experience, and just felt the Lord say, I want to move you from having terminology about me to having actual relationship with me. Um, and since that moment at around the age of 16, I just have felt this and sensed this call to tie together really, really helpful terminology about God based in His Word, with really powerful experience and encounter with the one that we're giving terminology about, and kind of tying that thing of head and heart together. So I just kept making steps with the Lord and with other people with this church to pursue that. And so I was a part of a house of prayer that I was going to start leading an internship program there. But the Lord called me to Point Loma. And I started studying Christian ministry and biblical studies and diving into the Word and theology and what practical ministry looks like. In that process, I came back home and became a youth pastor, started seminary, got a master's in theology, and was a part of a Free Methodist church, which is what Seychelles is as well, as Free Methodist Tide. And yeah, basically in that process, that's actually where I had met Pastor Mike at Seychelles, and met a few others who were at Seychelles as well. But in that process, just kept jumping into this place of feeling more and more of a call of this like explanation of God, and this opening for people to be in relationship with God is what ministry and pastoral ministry is all about. So as I've grown in my relationship with the Lord, I've really sensed this call to empower and equip and train other people to walk in the same thing, and for them to be inviters for other people to walk in that as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I love coming to do live stream sound, or just over now recently just listening through Sunday service on Facebook,
Yeah.
listening to your sermons. They're awesome. I love listening to your
Oh,
sermons.
thanks, Seth. And
Yeah,
we love having you on team, bro. You're an amazing asset to what we do. So we're grateful for you too.
thank you so much.
Yeah.
Um, so what are some things that you like to do outside of your job as a pastor and your job as a husband and dog dad?
Yeah. Sure. Sure. Well, Abby and I are huge fans of board games, and card games, and like any type of game. We just want to be playing that and doing that. We also love random dance parties.
Okay.
We will, anytime we need to celebrate, we just throw on some Bruno Mars and we get down, which is super fun. Yeah, we love going on hikes. We love going on walks, taking the dogs outside. And we live in a beautiful place in Washington where we get to do that. And it's a 5-minute drive, and then we're on the trail. Um, I really love, personally, I really like any sport. Like I said, I grew up playing a lot of sports, and I continue to play today, before quarantine and self-isolation and social distancing. Every week I'd get out and play ultimate frisbee, which, just to clear that up for listeners, a lot of times people hear that and they're like, wow, that's not very athletic. Ultimate frisbee is the one where you're running around the entire time with a frisbee, just to clarify. um, but I love playing softball. I love going on runs. Abby and I work out at Actualized Sports and Fitness. We love our gym. We love our coaches and trainers there. We love the people that we work out with there. Um, yeah, I mean, we kind of just do the run of the mill things though around here, getting outdoors, being outdoors in whatever way we can. I think Abby's favorite thing to do in the summertime is float the river.
Okay.
And we have a few secret spots that we like to go to that are kind of like inlets of the river that we just get to hang out and enjoy the sunshine and the water. And yeah, those are kind of some of the things that we really enjoy doing. I also, I'm a huge fan of poetry and writing and music. So actually what I'm spending a lot of my time right now doing is doing a lot of writing, for church content right now. But I have a book of poems actually that I've published, and I'm working on a second book right now. And then I love picking up the guitar and singing, and both in worship material and then in some other songs, other
Mhm.
music genres of music too. And so, yeah, I mean, you could find me doing that a lot, as well. And then, yeah, I mean, we'll watch, currently, if you want to know the shows that we're watching, we're currently going back through Boy Meets World,
Okay.
which is absolutely wonderful. The second or eighth or ninth time around, whatever number we're on. We're huge Parks and Recs fans. Um, yeah, those are some of the things that we love doing though.
Yeah. Um, Circling back around, I personally feel that you can tell a lot by a person by their music taste. It helps
Mm.
connect with other people throughout that's listening. So what are some of your music tastes?
Sure, sure. Well, not just because, it's the music that we sing every week, but because I really actually enjoy the music, and the connection I have with God and with people in it. I love all forms of worship music. I really do. I love Bethel. I love Elevation. I really like United Pursuit Band, House Fires. There's a few new collectives of people, that have been branching across music genres like gospel and more contemplative worship, called Maverick City Music, and I've just been loving listening to the stuff they've been creating. Um, I think growing up, I grew up in a like classic rock home, so any type of classic rock. We listen to Led Zeppelin, we listen to, the Scorpions, we listen to, heading into like 80s hair metal of like Motley Crue and Def Leppard and that kind of stuff, which was super fun. Um, in my high school years, I really loved, and they're still one of my favorite bands. Thrice was, like top of my list for a long time. Great band, really cool, story too. The lead singer was a worship pastor for a number of years, and it was kind of like he would like it was in a secular setting, but he just really wrote word based, lyrics. But their music is just unreal too. Um, I When I was a youth pastor, a lot of my, students were in the hardcore scene. So I got really into hardcore for a long time, of like Under Oath and a few bands called Sleeping Giant or Texas in July or, The Chariot, Norma Jean. Um, and then I also got into, a few rap artists, which I enjoyed. Like I love Chance the Rapper. Any stuff he produces, I'm really into. Um, and then in my college years, if you believe it or not, I was the president of gospel choir, at my college for, my senior year, and was a part of it all 4 years. And so, man, I just love gospel music. I love the passion in it. I love the lyrics of it. I love the intricacies of it. If people are listening and they're musicians, like they know how difficult gospel music is to make and to sing and to be a part of. And so, um, yeah, I basically, I feel like I hit every genre except for country because I don't think country is music. So, um, just kidding, but seriously.
Yeah. Uh, my dad was a huge everything 80s hair metal, so I totally understand that.
Who
Um,
did you listen to?
uh, Everyone. Lot of Motley Crue. It was probably
Hmm.
my dad's favorite all-time favorite band. Um, my mom bleeds into that a little bit with a little bit of Beastie Boys.
There you go.
I just recently got I collect vinyl records. I got an original copy of Beastie Boys Licensed to Ill.
Nice.
So that was pretty exciting.
That's awesome.
Um yeah, so I totally understand the 80s hair metal
Oh
side
yeah.
of things, but I mean, yeah, I spend a lot of time in basically all genres, even country.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
um so what are some of your favorite like hangout spots to be in Wenatchee when we're not under quarantine?
Sure. Sure. Well, I love, man, I just love, being at Mela. Like if I need to get work done, um, if I need to get work done, actually, I'll be in my office and have the doors closed. But if I want to connect with some people and have a good cup of coffee and gosh, the breakfast burritos at Mela, oh, I miss those. I would love just grabbing a cup of coffee though, and getting some writing in, or doing some emails, or working forward on different things that I'm working on at the church. I love Mela. I really, really, really love taking the hike, starting at the Rack, and going up the backside of Saddle Rock. And there's a few peaks there that you can get to as you're going to Saddle Rock that just have a really beautiful view over the valley, which I just love. I think Omi Gardens has a really great view as well. Cool prayer place up there. There's a few people that we hang with all the time that live in Sunny Slope, and their backyard is one of my favorite spots just because it's massive and their patio overlooks the valley too. There's just a few people that I know that have really great views of the valley from their house that we love to be at. But yeah, I mean, I love being, I love going to Pybus, and it's a really fun place to hang out, a lot of fun stuff to do there, and really great access for the Apple Loop. I love walking along the river right there. But outside of that, I mean, for sports purposes like Walla Walla, or even Wenatchee High School, it's where we play Frisbee or softball, or those kind of sports. So yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Do you have any that I need to know about?
One place that my friends and I spend a lot of time at is Tap and Putt.
Yeah, it's fun.
I love going there. We just recently hiked the place across from Saddle Rock. So if you go to the usual parking place, if you go across, you may be trespassing a little bit, but there's a mine that you can go into. Pretty cool place to be at. Pretty dark though. But a lot of time we're spending in a garage somewhere playing music or something.
Nice.
Time to get into a little bit more serious questions. What is something that most people underestimate about you?
Oh. Wow, that's a great question. Caught me off guard right there. I think sometimes in being in the vocation and career that I'm in, I mentioned I was born in '89, so I'm 30 years old, and I'm in a high position in pastoral leadership. So I think a lot of people look at me and they're like, so he's 30, he's got no kids, like what life experience does he have to be in pastoral leadership of that level, and I think a lot of people might look at that and underestimate like how much life experience I've had within my family, how much life experience I have gone through with Abby, and then also like how much development and how much training and how much time I've really poured into not just hearing like, oh yeah, I'm called to ministry, but like preparing myself above and beyond what many people would do for that pursuit and that call. And I think a lot of times people might look at the age, or might look at how young I look, or any of those qualities, and might underestimate like what I've actually poured into this, and how the Lord has developed me and called me and equipped me for this. Yeah.
Awesome. This question I'm about to ask, there is a correct answer to. So,
oh boy.
What is one question that you and Abby get asked and you wish people wouldn't ask?
Oh gosh. Well, the baby question.
Yep, there you go. You answered it spot on.
Yeah.
What is the best compliment you have ever been given?
When we were moving from Southern California to come up to Wenatchee, one of my best friends, his name's Stephen Wilson. He's one of my groomsmen. I was his best man. We went to college together. We went to seminary together. We actually grew up like 3 streets away from each other, but never met each other until we went to college, which is really funny. But we were kind of like, people were just spending time encouraging me at this young adults ministry that I had started down there. And he said something that just stood out above everybody else. And he said, Cam, because of you, I have fallen more in love with Jesus, and I know everybody else in this room has fallen more in love with Jesus. And then he continued to say, like as a compliment, like, I have no doubt that wherever you go, people will encounter the true Jesus and fall in love with him. And that was, I mean, that's all that I could ask for.
Mm-hmm.
That was a huge compliment, probably the most impactful one that I've received.
All right. What does being a Wenatcheeite mean to you? And I don't know if that's the actual term. I'm coining it though.
Yeah. Wenatcheeite. I think that's the correct term. Yeah. Man, I feel like it's really hard to put my finger on that. And I think I have a blessing in being out of town and coming in, and like the first like 4 months I was here, I literally just walked around and listened and observed and watched and asked questions and did all of that. And I think I've seen a few things that stick out to me for like what makes a true Wenatcheeite. And I think it's this is a family first place. Like, people love family. They would die for their family, to take a bullet for their family. And I know too that this is a place that really does like a great job in making sure like the next generation is set up for success, which I think is a key piece of family as well. I think a big piece of Wenatchee too is like a love for the outdoors, a love for the people around you, a love for what you have, and like being a good steward of what you have. I think the funny things in Wenatchee are like if it's above 40, or if it's like 40 degrees or above, it's t-shirt, shorts, and Birkenstocks weather.
Yeah. Yep.
And I'm not there yet. I went for a run today and it was 48 and rainy, and I'm like in a sweatshirt and compression tights and like bundled up. Meanwhile, I'm like running past this girl and her dog and she's in like shorts and a tank top. I'm like, oh gosh, this is embarrassing. But yeah, I think those would be what really stick out to me of what makes a true Wenatcheeite, like that family, that pursuing success for this next generation, love for outdoors, loyalty. Yeah.
Awesome.
What would you say?
Community is a big one.
Mm-hmm.
That family first aspect definitely keys into that, but I think community definitely plays a huge part into it, because I mean, this is a really bad example, but you can be, because I've seen this happen, you can be cheating on someone, then leave, and by the time you're driving home and getting to your wife, you will have gotten 80,000 phone calls, and your wife could have gotten 1 million of just people saying, this is happening, oh my gosh, what are you
Right.
going to do about it?
Right. It's a very tight-knit community.
Yeah, very tight-knit.
Mm-hmm.
So I love to give time for the guest to ask me questions as a basically full-time Wenatcheeite.
Yeah.
So what questions do you have for me, Cam?
Well, Seth, I need to know a very important question.
What's that? I'm not giving you my social security number.
Oh, okay. How about bank account number and routing number? Seth, what is your favorite thing to do in Wenatchee?
My favorite thing to do in Wenatchee. For the longest time, it's been to hang out with my best friend Hayden,
Mm-hmm.
because Hayden and I have known each other since kindergarten, and he's definitely what has kept me, besides Jesus, he's kept me grounded at a lot of points throughout my life, and just spending time with him and being whatever he wants to do, I'm usually pretty much game for.
Mm-hmm.
But inside of that, it's spending time with within youth group. Honestly,
Mm-hmm.
that's where I've definitely found myself, and getting to be more connected in that has been
Mm-hmm.
amazing.
Yeah.
Getting to see the inner workings and stuff. It's been a confidence booster in ways.
Yeah.
So
And you're doing a great job, bro. I mean, the youth ministry is thriving, and you're a key piece of that. So, yeah,
thank you.
yeah. Oh, absolutely. Here's a great question. What has been the most recent moment where you've laughed the hardest?
Oh man, that's hard.
Mm-hmm.
Laugh the hardest. Um, my mom and my dad have been married about 20 years now, so they've had a pretty long time to get to know each other, and they've spent about 2 weeks basically alone in a house together,
Mm-hmm.
um having to really try and keep that marriage going.
Yeah.
um and my mom's hearing can be off a
Yeah.
little bit of the time, and she'll hear things that either my dad or I have said, but she won't hear it correctly.
Mm.
um and she heard something the other day that I said, and she turned and went, "Did you just say this?" And my dad responded, "Yeah, we were talking about so and so." I don't remember what the conversation was, but my dad played it off just like that's what we were having a conversation about.
That's awesome.
And I had to hold my face because my mom believed him.
Yes.
And so I walked downstairs and I closed my bedroom door, and I was on the ground for probably 5 minutes just busting a gut.
That's awesome. Oh, I love it. I love it.
But other than that, I spend a lot of my time just smiling anyways,
Yeah,
so it's pretty easy to get me to laugh pretty hard.
totally. I've been around you. I know. Yeah. Well, I have one more question. What is one thing? I mean, I know you're still working hard, but what's one thing maybe that you might have more free time now, like in quarantine and in isolation, that like what's one habit that you want to carry on when we're done with quarantine and isolation?
Boy, that's a hard one. Um,
And it could be multiple things if you have
yeah.
equal.
One thing that I've had a lot of time to spend on is this that you're on right now, interviews from my
Hmm.
hometown.
Yeah.
Um, this idea that I had a bit ago was kind of just a fever dream. I love listening to podcasts, and it just kind of expanded into something that I think I could continue doing, even if it's just a hobby.
Sure.
Um, Another thing that I love doing is I've been practicing a lot more electric guitar and
Yeah.
acoustic guitar and stuff like that, and expanding my knowledge of those has been pretty phenomenal.
It's awesome.
Yeah,
It's
I'd probably
awesome.
say those.
It's great.
All right. Well, a way that I love to finish out the show
Hmm.
is, and you'll be perfect for this because you always come with a joke. Please tell me one of your favorite jokes.
Oh man, one of my favorite jokes, huh? Um, well, can I do two jokes? Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay, great, great. Well, my all-time favorite joke is, why did the monkey fall from the tree?
Why is that?
Because it was dead. A little bit dark, but it just catches everybody off guard. Okay. Um, what kind of vegetable is the most annoying?
what kind?
One that gets jalapeno business. They're so bad. They're so bad.
Oh,
I'll stop there because I think I could go on, but I don't want to make the ears bleed of our listeners right now.
One my dad tells all the time, and I think I've told you this joke already, but my dad finds this joke hilarious, and I don't get it. Why? How can you tell if an elephant's been in the refrigerator?
How?
He leaves tracks in the butter. It doesn't make any sense. He loves it though.
But then you ask the follow-up question. Have you ever seen elephant tracks in the butter?
No.
Exactly. It's like that one joke of, how do elephants hide in cherry trees? They paint their toenails red. And then you ask the question, have you ever seen an elephant in a cherry tree? Exactly.
Oh man. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Cam, for being on Interviews from My Hometown.
Thank you for having me, bro. It's been great to have a conversation with you and hear from you too. Appreciate you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sitting down with us. The next episode of Interviews from My Hometown will be within the next 2 weeks or so. We'll be having someone on. I don't know who yet, but someone will be on. Thank you all for listening, and have a great rest of your night.